This One's Wife. Victoria Beckham, Fury. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. A 3-part documentary series has just been launched today on Netflix in respect of Victoria Beckham. And it provides us with an interesting comparison, naturally, with This One's Wife and her reaction to it. Let's start with the trailer. You'll recall that when This One's Wife's trailer for With Love, Meghan came out earlier this year, it was highly stylized. It looked good. Of course, it was centered on her and showed interactions with various guests. It had cheesy one-liners from her. It showed her engaging in supposed cookery, crafting, flower picking and such like. And what was evident was the lack of authenticity. Naturally, This One's Wife believes that she's authentic because her narcissism tells her that is the case. But when you looked at the trailer, the overriding sensation was of, here's someone being performative. It's all just a display. It's all just an act. It's all part of putting on an appearance. It's not taking place in her actual kitchen. It's at a hired kitchen elsewhere. The chefs have been brought in to make her look good. Various guests have been brought in to make her look good, to talk about what a wonderful person she is. Something which I pointed out yesterday is being parodied by Spitting Image in relation to their sketches about her. It was all Potemkin. No substance to it. There to make her look like she was this doyenne of the kitchen, that she was this fantastic crafting individual with brilliant ideas and the hostess with the mostess. But it just smacked of being performative. I've just watched the Victoria Beckham trailer. Naturally, its job is to try and draw you in so that you watch more of the programme. But the contents of the trailer are significantly different to that of This One's Wife. Given that, she talks about the fact, initially, that people said she was basically the miserable cow that never smiled, but actually I do. She talks about how she has never forgotten where she came from. Contrast that with This One's Wife, who clearly has done so. Indeed, she doesn't really know where she's come from because the story of her childhood changes so much. She talked about how performing was her dream, and that she was obviously involved in the Spice Girls, and all of a sudden it then stopped. She explained that she was the awkward kid at school. You see that awkward kid? That was me. And she was desperate to be liked, to have a sense of worth. This isn't a narcissist speaking who's trying to elicit sympathy, but this is basically a straightforward woman who is explaining the way in which her life has been led, and that she was awkward at school, that she's honest about it. She then explains that fashion was a creative outlet for her. And then there are quotes from other people basically suggesting that people wouldn't take her seriously, it was going to be hard work for her, and she recognised that people would basically say, you're just a pop star who's married a footballer, what do you know about fashion? It then talks about her prepping for the biggest fashion show, and how then she went to Millions in the Red, and David Beckham makes an appearance saying that he panicked as a consequence of this financial problem. And then she goes on to state, I want my kids and David to be proud. It's taken so long to get to this position. At that, her voice cracks as she's overcome with emotion. And towards the end, she sat talking with David Beckham as they're being filmed, and David Beckham says to her, you can make a cheese and ham toasted sandwich and we'd be proud of you. Wiping away tears, Victoria Beckham states, to be honest, I couldn't make a good cheese sandwich anyway. There appears to be a considerable slice of honesty about the way that she presents, and this is a contrast with the behaviour of This One's Wife, also who had a series on Netflix, whereby what she put forward as a narcissist was performative, was manipulative, whereas with Victoria Beckham, it comes across as much more raw. This documentary is going to be problematic for this one's wife because she will look at someone like Victoria Beckham and see the fact that she's married to David Beckham, a good-looking man who is wealthy. And naturally, the comparison will be made with the Prince of Pink Pancakes, who isn't as good-looking as David Beckham, who doesn't have as good a reputation as David Beckham has, and certainly isn't as wealthy as David Beckham. And because, although she talks about her husband being a fox, which is when she gives him a respite period, much of the time he's in the sustained devaluation, and therefore his shortcomings, such as those that I have mentioned, are problematic and are highlighted by a comparison. The envy, which is a strong narcissistic trait that is present with the narcissist, propels this one's wife to look at the Beckhams and think, that ought to be me. As we know, she fell out with them as a consequence of her paranoid false accusations against them. And now, the problem that she has is that she undertook 2 parts of a series documentary on Netflix, and for the most part, it was hammered, it was laughed at, it was ridiculed. And yet, there's already considerable interest in relation to Victoria Beckham's documentary. And I suspect, and we shall see in relation to the appropriate reviews, that whilst they may not laud it as scintillating television, that certainly they'll see it as something that is more down to earth, more genuine than what has been seen in respect of this one's wife. For instance, Anita Singh, writing in The Telegraph, explains, "What do you give the couple that has everything? In the case of Netflix and the Beckhams, it's a set of his and her documentaries. David went first in a 2023 series revisiting his playing days and showcasing his happy family life. Now Victoria has her own 3-parter, and the focus is on her fashion business. She comes across as likeable, self-deprecating, hard-working, and funny, which is why it's such a shame that the end product is so boring." Well, this reviewer thinks the show is boring, but Victoria Beckham comes out of it rather well. She's described as likeable. Has that been said about this one's wife in her series? Self-deprecating? Absolutely not the case with this one's wife, who regularly blows her own trumpet. Hard-working? Well, we know that this one's wife isn't. She's lazy. Funny? This one's wife is inadvertently funny, but not intentionally so. The reviewer explains it's fun to see the couple at home being down to earth. Victoria is this one's wife, as she actually lets us into her real kitchens, plural, the Beckhams have many properties, to admire her marble splashbacks and the ready supply of booze. If you enjoy nosing about in the homes of the rich and famous, then there is content here for you. The kitchen island in the Beckhams' Cotswold home could double as a 3rd runway at Heathrow. And you won't catch Victoria arranging rainbow fruit platters, because she cheerfully admits to being a terrible cook who would struggle to make a decent cheese sandwich, as mentioned earlier on. The bits where Victoria talks about her past are engaging. She's smart and knows how to come up with a memorable line. "I buried those boobs in Baden-Baden" cannot be beaten as a reference to her having breast implants removed as a way of distancing herself from her old wagtastic look at the 2006 World Cup. She also covers serious subjects, including childhood bullying and an eating disorder. But the documentary is structured around Victoria showing her collection at none other than Paris Fashion Week in September 2024. Yes, where this one's wife has just popped up. "Victoria begins to sound scripted by AI," writes the reviewer. "I need this to be a success. This business is everything to me. It's been a hell of a journey. I almost lost everything." There is an element of jeopardy, and God knows what the producers would have done without it, in the fact that Victoria's chosen an outdoor venue for her show, and the weather forecast is torrential rain. But you just know that the show will be a triumph, because that's the way this series has been planned. The fact is that whilst the show isn't lauded as being particularly interesting in itself, it only gets 2 out of 5 stars, the fact is that there are immediately the comparisons to this one's wife. But, once again, unfavourably for her. The fact is that what she does and how she comes across is much better than that of this one's wife. And naturally, this one's wife could want to emulate someone such as Victoria Beckham in terms of handsome husband, level of wealth, level of prestige, and the fact of being involved in fashion, something that this one's wife has skirted around but so far not yet been able to penetrate. Seeing this documentary, and this one's wife will, because she will be focused on what Victoria Beckham is achieving, will infuriate this one's wife. The fact that she has been praised as likeable, self-deprecating, hardworking and funny when this one's wife faces repeated criticism will annoy her. It will ignite her fury. The fact that many people are likely to watch this compared to the fewer numbers that watch this one's wife series will infuriate her. She cannot be pleased with Victoria Beckham. She's a narcissist. It flies against her. Even if she shows the appearance of being pleased it's manufactured, in actual fact, she's driven by envy. And the existence of this series is problematic for this one's wife. First of all, there are comparisons between the two women in terms of marrying famous men, although in fairness to Victoria Beckham, she was more famous than David Beckham when they first met as a member of the Spice Girls, and she has achieved things more notably on herself, even though she admits there are certain things she's not very good at. But there are similarities, and not only will this one's wife recognise that, but it's also the fact that the media will. Furthermore, the comparison between the two series will result in a better outcome, mark my words, for Victoria Beckham in terms of viewing figures, which will send this one's wife nuts. And therefore, once again, her unlikability generated by the behaviour of her narcissism works against her. Victoria Beckham comes across well. David Beckham had done previously. I've referenced some of the things that are placed on the Instagram that the two of them do, for instance, in relation to David in the garden and his beekeeping, which are indirect and oblique piss takes of this one's wife. The Beckhams are much better liked than Harry and this one's wife, and the viewing figures are going to show this alongside the reviews and comments about the accessibility and likability of Victoria Beckham. All of this plate smashing in Monty Shit Show, as the comparisons are unfavourable for this one's wife, resulting in a threat to her control and the predictable ignition of her heated, ignited fury. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.